Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And we're going to have a look at the UK watchdog that's going to actually investigate the SNP spending on independence matters. Now, I mentioned this yesterday and said it was a party political matter and it shouldn't have been paid out of government funds. And so now the UK officials will definitely be investigating it, which could mean that all the money spent by the government on these roles will have to be repaid by the SNP. That will break them. It's fantastic news. But before we get into this, an absolute heads up. Please pay attention. After this has gone live, I will be uploading a video. It's a long video. It's nearly half an hour long. It's the video that came as a result of a source called Merlin, who's come to me. And Merlin is giving me a piece of information that is not in public domain. And I'm presenting it to you. Absolutely watch this next video as well. It will blow your mind. I mean, it's something that we've all thought, but we're now starting to see things where you can definitely point fingers. It's just too much there to not be anything at all. So it's coming up. It's basically going to be the smoking gun of the SNP with regards to euthanizing thousands of elderly people. And this letter should have been destroyed, and we managed to get probably the only copy of this letter in existence. So do keep an eye out for that next video. So now's an excellent time to hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss it. It is going to blow your mind. Anyway, on to this one. So we'll get into this article here. This is all to do with Jamie Hepburn. He's on £100,000 a year because they want to have this Minister for Independence, even though most people in Scotland don't want to be independent, and it is actually a political role. And so it will be, of course, investigated. So here goes. Right, so UK officials will investigate the SNP's Minister for Independence role and other Skexit spending. Jamie Hepburn was handed the $98,000 a year, nearly $100k a year, probably $130,000 a year when you add expenses on. This job by Humza Yousaf earlier this year, as the Nats show no sign of giving up their dream to run and indeed ruin the country, and ruin they most certainly are. So UK officials will investigate Skexit spending by the Scottish Government. We revealed the Advocate General for Scotland had been urged to look into money used by the devolved administration aimed at breaking up the UK. This is the story yesterday. Lord Foulkes, or Foulkes, or whatever how you pronounce it, he was accosted, and basically it was a football match, wasn't he? Hearts, I think, and he was accosted by somebody, not accosted as in beat, but sort of earholed, pigeonholed, and got hold of by someone who complained, several people who complained, and he got hold of the Advocate General, Lord Durling. And so he sort of pushed him to do it. But anyway, Durling has come out now and said he's setting up an inquiry and he's going to have a look at the whole role. So anyway, central to this was the creation of a Minister of Independence by Humza Yousaf for Jamie Hepburn. Labour peer Lord Foulkes of Cumnock had pressed Lord Stewart of Dirleton, that's it, Dirleton, only off the top of my head, I couldn't remember, to intervene during a committee earlier this week. Despite suggestions there be no investigation, the Scottish Express has seen correspondence from Lord Stewart that indicates he has tasked officials to examine the expenditure. Lord Foulkes went on to confirm it to the House of Lords, saying the Advocate General for Scotland has agreed at my request to instruct his officials to investigate ultra vires expenditure by the Scottish Government. So basically, yeah, the inquiry is on. They're going to look to see what money's been spent, who it's been spent by, what it's been spent on, and does it come under governmental expense or is it party political? If it's party political, they have to pay it back, every penny. And they haven't got the money. They absolutely haven't got the cash. He then asked Treasury Minister Baroness Penn to give her assurance that officials in the Treasury will work cooperatively with the Advocate General's officials. Lady Penn responded, I can give him that assurance. So everybody's lining their ducks up, ready to go on this, because it's going to give them an excellent opportunity to absolutely destroy the SNP. because the SNP keep doing terribly bad things, I suppose. The Advocate General is a law officer who advises the UK government on Scots law. Mr Hepburn was placed in the £98,000 a year role by Mr Yousaf when he became First Minister back in March. The SNP leader has also indicated he would continue spending taxpayer cash on prospectuses aimed at making the case for Skexit, and indeed released one last month. Hundreds of thousands of pounds each time, coming out of public funds when this is a party political matter. It's against the will of the people, and he shouldn't be doing it. He's going to find himself with a large bill and insufficient funds, and there's not enough washing up for him to do. Scottish Conservative Shadow Constitution Secretary Donald Cameron said, in light of last year's Supreme Court ruling that there can be no proper justification for the Scottish Government using public money to pursue independence, any resources deployed in that way simply amounts to a misuse of taxpayers' cash, which is a crime. He said, that's why I wrote to the Permanent Secretary objecting when Humza Yousaf created a Minister for Independence. You can't have a minister in charge of pursuing a policy that is not within his or his government's remit. So I support this investigation. But leaving aside the legalities, the Scottish people are sick and tired of the SNP wasting time and money obsessing on independence at the expense of their real priorities, the cost of living crisis, the NHS, Scotland's economy. And he is completely right, and most people in Scotland are absolutely fed up. I'm going to suggest even nationalists, even people who support the SNP, are probably thinking, look, we know we're not going to get independence, give it up, get on and do your day job, sort the NHS out, sort the economy out, do the proper things, and then we'll have a look at independence again later. Lord Foulkes had previously said people had come up to him in the streets at Tynecastle Stadium, home of his beloved Hearts FC, to complain about the spending. He criticised the decision to create Mr Hepburn's role when there is clearly not going to be a referendum, and probably won't be for another 5 to 10 years maybe. And even then, they'll lose it. When constitutional matters are not devolved to the Scottish Parliament and Scottish Government, and when it is clearly a political campaign, and it purely is a political campaign. And is it me, or does he look like Tommy Docherty? It's not just me, is it? He's got a look about him, and it is Tommy Docherty. Anyway, younger viewers may be advised to go and Google who Tommy Docherty is. Anyway, the UK government has already moved to clip the wings of SNP politicians using taxpayer money to travel abroad to spread their Skexit cause and lies. Angus Robertson, Air Miles Angus, has become especially notorious and now requires to be babysat by Foreign Office staff, much to his immense chagrin. A spokesman for the UK government said it is up to the Scottish government how it spends its record block grant in devolved areas. We have been consistently clear that we think that the priority for people in Scotland is halving inflation, tackling the NHS waiting times, ensuring energy security, and allowing our economy, and growing our economy across the whole of the UK. These are not priorities for the SNP. Everything in the SNP has only got one priority, of course, and that is independence, which is why everything else is falling apart. Independence Minister Jamie Hepburn said, the 2021 Scottish Parliament election returned a clear majority in favour of an independence referendum. No, it didn't. More people voted against the SNP than voted for it. He said, therefore, there is a democratic mandate for a referendum. No, there clearly isn't. And we are committed to giving people in Scotland the right to choose their constitutional future. And they did, and they said no. It is the role of the civil service to support the elected government of the day in developing and implementing its policies. That includes with regards to constitutional reform. Constitutional reform, of course, is without the remit of the government. They cannot do it. And so, there you go. He's going to be investigated. The bill will go in, and the SNP will be very, very worried with the news of this, because this could bankrupt them. And let's hope, fingers crossed, it does. Anyway, I shall round off there and come up. Yes, so this goes through. Let's imagine, for example, we don't know the result. They may just not even bother. They might just say stop doing it rather than billing them. But we've got to hope they do bill them. But, you know, they're going to have to pay Jamie Hepburn's salary back, 100,000, plus all the, you know, national insurance and things, plus his expenses. That's all got to be paid back, every penny there. All the cost of all those brochures, they're at least £100,000 a time. They've got to be paid back. They've got all those 24 or 24 staff or whatever we reported yesterday. That's come to 1.4 million so far. That's going to have to be paid back. They'll be looking at somewhere in the region of £2 million. Here's a £2 million bill to the SNP that's got to be paid back into the public purse. The SNP, quite simply, haven't got it. And it would be quite permissible for the government, the UK government, to then bankrupt, well, they can't bankrupt a company, but put a company into administration for failure to pay its bills. It's not viable. Its debts far outweigh its assets. And they could actually foreclose and put the whole of the SNP into administration. And I would make a video about that, and it would probably be my most watched video of all time. Anyway, I shall finish there, except to say one thing. Remember, I gave a note at the head of this video. I'm going to remind you now. The very next video, please watch it in full. It's a long video, but please watch it in full, because at the back end of it is a letter that shouldn't exist. A letter that was made and had a notice to destroy. Nobody should ever have it. I've got hold of possibly the only copy of that letter. I've got a photograph of the only copy of that letter. And it is pretty mind-blowing stuff. My source, Merlin, has got several bits, and more will come. But this letter is absolutely... When you see the first two parts of the next video are setting up the context, giving you the means and the motive, and then this letter gives you the opportunity. And as every good cop knows, with means, motive and opportunity, you have a crime. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and please God hit that subscribe button. You're going to want to see this video. Thank you and goodbye.